It's a baseball episode. Get hype. Thank you so much for clicking play and joining me on this episode of She Got Next. My guest today is Veronica Alvarez. She's the coordinator of player development Latin America for the Athletics, and she's also USA Baseball's women's national team manager. Does it feel crazy and exciting still now that you've been in it for a bit?
Yeah, no, I love development, human development, baseball development, all of that. So to see the progress that we've had in the last 3 seasons, just makes me more excited for this fourth one. So it doesn't get old. It gets, if anything, more exciting because we're seeing the fruit of our investment and our attention to the program in the way that the guys are performing. Their success once they moved stateside into our minor league system. And not only that, but also on field in the Dominican. Last year, we had a very good season. So, all of that passion that I have for my job, all of the preaching I've done and the asks and the kind of advocating I've done for those players, we're now seeing the effects of it. So yes, it only makes me more excited to see what we could do this coming year and going forward.
You mentioned a key phrase there, and that's exactly what I wanted to tap into: human development. I've heard you describe that on a number of podcasts and some interviews. And you've also said whether or not you're talking to young girls through Major League Baseball's initiatives to get women in the game, whether you're talking to the young women that are playing for USA Baseball's national team, or these young guys in the A system, human development needs run across the board, and they're very similar. Again, whether you're talking to an 11-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old in the system, tell me about what those human development skills are that you're trying to share with all of those athletes.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, I've learned about it, and I've been able to analyze it in a very completely different way than baseball, right? Like I was a firefighter medic. And I say that was like a boot camp of human behavior, human development, in the way that, one, we dealt with patients and what we saw on a daily basis, but also in our firehouse, in our station, station within our crews, and how people associated with each other and the skill sets necessary to kind of function in this high stress environment. And so, that to me has always been fascinating, like how people perform or behave in certain situations. And so I got to do that for 8 years and be able to analyze it after every call and after every situation at the station, and then try to implement it in baseball. And so that's a big one. So how do we overcome failure? How do we overcome a stressful situation and come out on top of it? And then how do we manage ourselves in that? One I've talked about, and I joke because my mom used to always say, "Don't forget to breathe," I would always say, "Of course I'm breathing, Mom. If not, I wouldn't be, alive," and all these things. But now that's what I find myself saying, right? It's don't forget to breathe, but the importance of breath and the way that affects our behavior, right? And then therefore our development. And so in a stressful situation, our heart rate goes up, which causes us to breathe faster. And then our head starts going all sorts of places, right? And so if we could learn to control our breath, we control our heart, and therefore we control our mind. And in performance in high stress environments, as far as like trying to be a professional athlete and make a career out of this, or win a championship game, that's so important, right? The ability to control our heart and our brain is gonna be a huge factor in the way that we move forward, progress, and find success. I've been able to implement and handle these things with the young girls. I've been able to kind of bring over to the boy side, and it's helping in that. So all the things I'm kind of implementing at the A's Academy, there's a long-winded answer, but have been kind of taken and drawn from not only my firefighter life, but my work with young girls on the MLB Develop side as well.
I love that you mentioned the firefighter part, because I did see that in your resume of experience. And I'm like, would you have time for all of these lives, Veronica? You've done so many things. But I also like the fact that you pointed out the need for breathing. And I understand that connection. I mean, it's something, like you said, it's a human development skill. What are you doing in those stressful times? How are you visualizing? What are the stories you're telling yourself when you're at the plate and it's 3-2 and there's 2 outs and there's a man on? Like you got to figure out how to feel and maybe even create these habits. So it doesn't become a process of having to think it all the way through. Like maybe you're thinking about what pitch is coming down, but you trained your body how to handle those stressful situations. And again, I think that's helpful in life.
Yeah.
Because life is so much fast all the time. So like going crazy every time something stressful happens, it's not likely good for you.
Exactly.
So how to manage that.
yeah, like it maybe sounds like fluff to some people, but like obviously we're teaching baseball and I love baseball and the skill of it and everything that comes with it, right? But there's needs to be this foundation of like understanding your own body, your brain, and like how do I handle that in this environment that's
Mhm.
going, how do I learn, right? Like all of these things are really important to becoming a great baseball player, right? And to be able to receive the information that you're getting at a high level, right? And so if I don't have that foundation, you can feed me all the information you want, and I'm not going to learn it, right? Or I'm going to stick to my old ways and not be okay with failure and not be okay with adjusting. So I need to create this environment now in my role. I need to create this environment where they feel comfortable doing all these things and learning themselves and making these adjustments in order to get them to learn the game the way we want them to learn the game and
Yeah.
understand it, right? And compete at a high level and play the game, right? So I think if you hear those two things separately, you think, oh, Veronica's just teaching fluff over there. Or like, yeah, I don't know, like it sounds soft in a way, right? And it's like, no, this is like a really important part of their foundation in order to attain this goal that we have for them and for that they have for themselves.
Doesn't sound fluffy to me at all. I totally get it. And you kind of tapped into something I've been thinking about in an interview that you did with MLB Network. I'm going to quote you here. I have to collaborate with them in the process of learning and development to be the best player possible. And I think that requires of you, tell me if I'm wrong, like just being highly intentional about seeing who they are as people and then being able to manage that. And all of us are different. So, how they handle stress, like you said, and whatever type of level of confidence that they have, you need to collaborate with them on that level in order to then, add that secret sauce again to get them to the majors. Does that sound accurate?
For sure. Yeah. And for them to listen to me, right? I'm a woman. I don't look the part necessarily, or at least what they expected, in that role. And so it's like, I think as women on field and women in these roles, like we don't think about our gender in them, but we know that we have, like, if we take this approach, we have an advantage, right? And we know we're working against that, right? And it's in the back of our mind, but it doesn't really affect us. I feel equal and like just like a baseball person when I'm on the field. I'm not thinking constantly about my gender, but it has been a factor, right? I am not 6'4". I was not a former big leaguer. I am not just like, I don't walk in the room and you think, oh, baseball person, right? Like those things are things that I think now benefit us, right? Because we are dealing with humans, and though we want to think of them as assets in a professional setting because they are an asset, they are worth money and things like that. If we're talking about the business of baseball, we're dealing with humans, and we're dealing with people that we need to understand in order to help guide them in their path to becoming great and getting what we want out of them, right? And what will add value to us and to them. And so, but we do need to understand that as people. And I think that's how we're going to be most effective in our approach to developing them, is if we consider the human aspect of it.
You're investing in potential at this point.
Totally.
Baseball is my favorite sport. I talk about it all the time. Even if I'm talking to somebody in hockey or volleyball, I'm like, well, baseball is my favorite. And what I love about baseball, and it's true for a lot of different sports, but baseball is going to the ends of the earth to find the best athletes. And they are wrapping their arms around them, trying to make sure that you support them in whatever way possible. It's language barriers. What are the cultural traditions that you have? Do we need to fly in grandma every now and then to make you feel like home and make that meal that makes you excited? Whatever that is, because we want to invest in your overall success. We see something in you. And we're not only farming from, colleges or looking at dads who played in a league and said, like, you're the ones that we want to hunt out. It's going everywhere. And that, in my mind, is DEI. You're investing in their growth. You're going all over the place. You're trying to find the best player and investing in their potential. And I'm guessing, I'm wondering, I should say this, Veronica, I'm wondering, how do you know once you're there, like when you're looking at athletes and you're assessing their skill level, their mental capacity to be able to withstand the ups and downs of all of these games they play? It's a long season. What are you looking for? Like, what is the thing that comes to you and says, like, this guy, this girl, they've got it?
Yeah.
That was a long 45-minute question, but I'm like, you've done all this work with them and now you're like, they get it.
Yeah. The non-quantifiables, right? And it's hard to defend or describe non-quantifiables in a game that is now driven by quantifiables, right? And so I mean, a good majority of people still understand it, right? But it's really hard when, when the guy has the numbers, but he doesn't have what it's going to take when, when things aren't going his way, or when the team's not doing whatever, right? Whatever may come with them. And it is like this sense of fight in them. And you see it in their eyes, you see it in the way they perform under pressure. You see if they crumble or they don't, you see if they back down to it. Right. And I love finding those players, right? Those players are not easy to find, right? But even I'd take a player with the fight and less skill than a player with the skill and less fight, right? And so you could, I mean, the hope is they could teach the skill, but you can get them to a point where the fight's gonna take them where they need to go. And so, yeah, that's what I kind of ask of my players in the DR. And it's interesting because we talk about adversity being, I talk about adversity being really important to a player moving through and up. Male, female, I mean, in life, right? If you haven't faced adversity, when the hard thing comes, it's going to be very difficult for you, right? So the sooner you can face it and figure it out and find a way around it, the better off you're going to be in the future, right? And so our players, though they have had adversity in their lives, right, because they don't necessarily come from, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them don't come from money or favorable situation. They haven't faced adversity in the game of baseball, and so it's like, it's kind of interesting to see. So you see some of them back down or back off when adversity hits, and you see some of them fight through it. And so part of our teaching, part of the culture I'm trying to create down there is that fight, right? It's like learning to work through the failure, learn and continue to move forward. And just like, if all I have is this fight and desire to win or be successful, that's all like I want, right? I don't want you to back down. That's actually what I ask of my players, is do not give up, right? Find a way to be successful, whether it's using your team, whatever it is, but find the way to be successful and do not give up the fight. My analogy to them is the word for street dog in the DR is vira-lata, like a dog that knocks over garbage cans. That's the term, vira-lata. So I tell them that. They think I'm crazy, but I tell them, I want you to be a vira-lata. Like, I want you to be a street dog, right? Where you're missing a leg and you're still moving forward, trying to look for food because you're hungry, right? And so, and then like off of the field, I want you to be my well-behaved house dog, right? That pretty much says please and thank you. But you need to have that fight in you that, like, no matter what, you're going to keep moving forward.
Well, I would imagine like that, like you said, that has to be the number one thing. I mean, baseball, you're going to the Hall of Fame if you're good 30% of the time. So like, you have to expect the failure to come. And when they're young, they've had so much success because they're the best on their team, in that league, at their school, but you're getting the best of the best at every level. So being able to remind yourself that like the worst is going to come. It's really about how you approach it that will distinguish you.
Totally. And we do that. I mean, we try to implement that. Like, I'm very outspoken when it comes to development of our pitchers, or on our position player, everyone, right? But like, I don't know how much you're familiar with on the way that we go through spring training. And do you know about rolling innings or no?
I don't.
Okay. So when we're preparing for the season, right, and we're building guys up, a guy will, let's say, is going to only assign 2 innings today because we're building him up, right? If he reaches his pitch count or his 2 innings and he doesn't get 3 outs in each inning, whatever, they'll roll the inning, meaning they'll just like clear the slate. Okay, like you have 1 out and you're like reached 15 pitches or whatever you're assigned that day. And then they roll it and everyone gets off and the inning, fresh inning starts. And I hate it. I hate it because what does it do to development?
It stops you right there. Like,
the pitcher's ability to come out of it, to face adversity and get out of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't allow them to, right? It doesn't allow them that moment of growth because fresh start, next inning, nobody's on base. I'm going to start again.
Well, why do they do it, Veronica? Like, if it's
it's my battle every year, but don't worry. Everyone knows, and they like to poke the bear and tell me that they're going to roll innings and all these things. At a certain level, I think that might be fine, right? Big league level, fine, right? They've gotten there. They've worked through adversity. They understand. At 17 and 18 years old, no. Do not clear the bases. Do not let them start fresh, right? Do not let them get out of the mess that they have now created. We
Yeah.
need to help them learn to get out of it, right? And so in years past, I would see pitchers. You see them, the season starts and they've been rolling innings and getting out of it. Season starts, first inning doesn't go like they expect, and they're looking at the dugout for like, somebody come help me. And it's like, there's no help now. Right. And so I don't want to face that in the season. I don't want to face that when the games count. I want to face that in training.
Yeah.
I want them to look over the dugout and be like, I need help in training. And then us being like, okay, well, here's the solution, but like, go do it. Right. Like, go fight for it. And so we've adjusted after a lot of preaching and down there and a lot of collaboration with a lot of people, the way that we approach our preseason in the DR in that sense. And I hope I'm not giving away secrets to our success here, but I think it's really important to make our players face that adversity before the season starts, so that when the season starts, we're ready to compete.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that happens. And then it also affects, if you think about it, the position players, our hitters, because now they're not used to seeing runners on second and third and having to score them or having to do whatever they need to do, find a way to score the runs and win the game, right? So it's affecting both sides by protecting this one group of people. And it's really health-based, right? It's not to like baby them in a mental way. It's just doing that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But it's really to protect their arms, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying like go from like, throw them to the lion's den, right? But have an approach to like, if they don't survive that inning, like just like in a regular game, you would remove them from the game and put somebody else in their place, right? It's like they have to experience that moment of failure too to find success. Like you can't protect them from failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear that. Well, diving a little bit deeper into your role, which I don't know if that's even possible. We've been getting to the nitty-gritty, which I love about this conversation so far. Part of your role also is to help these Latin American players transition into this culture of the States. And you're a proud first-generation Cuban American. And I imagine it's a little bit of a balance, right? Like there are things about their values, their belief system, traditions that you want them to hold on to because it's what makes them them. But then there are things that are just kind of cultural norms here in the States. And I wonder, what are some of the cultural norms that you are explaining to them and sharing with them so they're not as scared, surprised, or unable to adapt when they come stateside?
Well, it's going to be hard to think off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like finding middle ground for both sides, right? I love my American side. I love my Latin side. Both have something to offer, right? And like I think in the past or in certain spaces, like we want the Latin side to adapt to the American side because we're playing American baseball. But there's so much that the Latin side brings that could help us, right? Like even just energy alone. If you allow them to kind of be themselves in that, you're going to see how it's going to add value to your American side and to the game in general. And so, and then not to say the Latin side doesn't have work ethic, but it's a different style of work ethic on the American side, as far as like when we're working, right? And like Latins, we love to chit chat and we love to talk and stuff. And so like we can be focused and we can be talking about like doing our thing, but we're like, talking over here and screaming over there and yelling, whatever. So kind of like finding this, like, hey, when you're working, and like off the side, you can have your fun, you can have your conversations, and you can dance. I love one of my guys dance in the DR, but like we need to work when we're, working. But some of the little things like whistling, this is a random one that you maybe not expecting, but we like to, as Latins, we like to like, hey, whistle to somebody,
Uh-huh.
And the American side doesn't like that. So I gotta teach them that they're not allowed to whistle at people when they're getting their attention. So like, I mean, this is very non-baseball related, right? But like you need to learn people's names and you need to call them by it. And though I know you're not being disrespectful by whistling or being like, oh, hey, that's very normal to us. Like you need to be aware of that and you can't do that. So learn people's names and things like that. So that's a big one. Learn people's names when you get to the States and like know who you're talking to, no matter who what position they hold.
Yeah.
This one's a really weird one. butter in the toaster. So I know. Stateside, you can't put butter on your toast and then you put it in the toaster. You don't do that in the toast. But in Latin culture, the toasters that we have for the most part are the sandwich like presses, And so the norm is you put butter on a bread and you put it on the sandwich press and you toast your bread. And so they've been doing that in stateside, and not a good no. Really like stateside. But those
You're right. I wouldn't have guessed that. That would not have been.
It's a really random one, but it happens all the time. But as far as just making sure you know people's names, not being scared to test out your English, or if you don't understand something, please go try to figure out what they said and let them know that you're not understanding it. I promise you that the person who's speaking to you, rather you understand what they're saying than you not wanting to share that you didn't understand the English that they were speaking, right? And so certain things like that. So I'm big on the education aspect of it, them learning English, and we have a great director of education and people in that department with the A's that I help, kind of incorporate what they want into our program and support them in that, because it's so important to our guys. So part of the transition part is just exposing them to things. So we've added American coaches at our academy in the DR, and then just a lot more American presence, and then encouraging our players to communicate that with them, and not just shy away from them, because they don't understand or whatnot. So kind of just this forcing the relationship and getting them comfortable with what they're unfamiliar with, which is usually, the American culture side, people, and things like that. And kind of going back to my human development part and the lessons I've learned on the girls' side, the power of a familiar face. So if they can see these, stateside coaches in their safe space, when they get to the States and they see that person, right, they're like, oh my God, Bob, right? Oh, whatever. Ed, how are you? It's another person that they might feel comfortable going up into and talking to. So it's not such an unfamiliar environment.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine there's got to be things that probably just come up on the daily. Americans like to eat hot dogs, a lot of hot dogs at baseball games.
Food's a hot topic.
The food thing has to be huge.
Food's a hot topic. I tell them, man, what do I tell my guys when I travel with them? I'm like, food's a hot topic. I always say, don't just stand in a line. If you see a line, don't stand in it. You go to the front, you make sure you're supposed to be where you're supposed to be, because Americans love standing in line, right? So then they're like, okay. So, that's a hot one. The food's constant. Culturally, we as Latins, love to call people by descriptive measures, right? So we had a redhead at the academy that I was a strength and conditioning coach. His nickname was Rojo. We had a guy with a mustache. His nickname was Bigote, right? So it's like they love to do that, and it's not to offend somebody, but I tell you, you can't do that,
Black Americans do it too.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay.
With our nicknames, yeah.
So trying to encourage them, hey, don't lose your, I preach a lot of leadership stuff down there. Don't lose your leadership qualities. Don't lose your culture just because you're going to this unfamiliar place. A lot of the things that you're supposed to be doing, where you're supposed to be at, and this time management aspect. Trust yourself in that, and then find people that are good influences on you. But don't just get there and be like, oh, he's American, I'm gonna follow in his tracks. He might be doing it wrong, right? So it's trust in what you've learned up until this point, and then you be a leader once you get there as well.
One thing that you brought up kind of made me think about the evolution of baseball kind of recently, some of the new changes they've made to the rules, because baseball is known for being kind of like an old slug of a game. It takes forever. It's quiet. There's not a lot of activity all the time. You don't know if it's going to be an offensive game or more of a defensive force. But they've, again, made some rule changes lately to try to introduce new fans into the sport. And I wonder, because that shift, if you've been able to communicate to the guys in the DR and saying your personality is more welcomed now. We had a period where it was let's be quiet. Celebrations are looked at this way. There are a lot of unwritten rules. And now they're kind of relaxing on some of that. Has it come to a point where you could say your personality, who you are, is being embraced a bit more?
I think it's org to org, right? It's organization to organization. And I think as a whole, I agree that people are welcoming these differences in players and their personalities and things. And I mean, even like apparel shows it, and like just, you know, everyone, the way that the game has evolved, and yeah, the way the players are presenting. But I still think it's organization based, right? And so kind of working against the old school mindset of, in a sense, and opening their minds to individuality. But yeah, so it's conversations we have with the players, right? Like I love having fun on the field, and so I kind of create these environments where it looks like it's a circus, but I promise we're focused and working, and I think the result has shown that. But you know, like I don't mind them dancing on the field if, again, they're focused and making the adjustments and like on the work and stuff like that during batting practice, right? And so embracing those little things, and then just being like, hey, look, just stateside, like be aware that this isn't how the American side functions, and so you might have to adjust in that situation.
Yeah.
And again, it's just an open conversation of teaching them the differences and seeing like what we could do to, I want them to be successful. And that starts with the impression they make to the bosses.
Yeah. And I would think you have to create that foundation of, this is what we're doing at a minimum. These are the things, these are the rules. And as you get better, as you grow within your organization, some of those things can adjust. But now we know you as someone who is a team player. And
Right.
that's what you have to display early on. And that's what we're building here in the DR. I'm thinking also now, thinking about like the whole being your whole self and showing up and being able to dance on the field. I'm thinking about an article I read about you that came out last year, and it was about your time during I'm going to read this, the 8th annual Trailblazers series. And that series is an MLB initiative, again, to get girls in the game. And it's like a 2-day event, 100 girls, 11 to 13. And a colleague of yours asked a young girl who is attending, part of the program, what she would think if she knew that the A's had made maternity pants for you. And that little girl's answer signaled to you that you should become more present in public about your pregnancy, which I think is amazing that they made those pants. I'm going to have that picture up there of those maternity pants. In that article, this is what you're quoted as saying: they don't see gender when it comes to us. Alvarez said to the A's, we're one of them, and they try to make us as welcome as possible. I'm happy to be part of this org in so many different ways. Now, I'm kind of a brat, Veronica, so tell me, this might just be semantics. I mentioned to you when I was trying to schedule this conversation with you, I'm an A's fan. I grew up watching the A's. My whole family were sitting around the dining room table in 1989 watching the Battle of the Bay when the 1989 earthquake hit, and we all dove under the table. Decades later, Dave Stewart, 3-time World Series champion, pitched to me in the batting cages.
No way.
A's, incredible. The A's were the first professional team in any sport to give me credentials as part of the press. So I'm a diehard.
All right. Love it.
And thinking of your quote, though, it made me think, like, is the goal here with you, with any of us, women in sports, to be seen as the same? They don't see any difference between me as a woman and the other coaches that are men. We're all the same. Or is it to understand the difference, like that difference, understand the perspective, the lens with which you see the world and the game, and that not be a hindrance to them wanting you on the staff? And again, I could have just been reading this through that whole, like, I'm being a brat, it's semantics, maybe you mean, but I just want to be clear about it, because again, you're playing, I've never been in an environment like yours, anywhere near it, where it's a very masculine game out there. You're playing with young guys who have all these preconceived notions about women and their part in the game. But I imagine there's a push-pull. You want to be seen as the same, but also there are aspects of you that are like, nah, I'm different, and this is why it's good.
Yeah, I think that's the conflicting conversations that will forever exist as women in sport, right? It's like and I struggle with it all the time, right? It's like this, like, and I think surface level, it's like, I want to be treated the same so that my differences come out, right? I don't know if I'm treated the same and accepted as if one of the guys, right, you're allowing me to come out in my full personality, which adds my differences, right? Or like allows my differences to be a factor.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense, right? And so yes, surface level, right? We want to be treated the same. We don't want to be made a big deal about, right? But the importance of making a big deal about it, right?
Yeah.
That's right. And it's the importance of the visibility aspect for the young girls, because if you see it, you can be it, right? And it's like creating this like environment of like, you belong here, right? And if you don't put that out, they don't see it, right? And so yeah, it's a constant struggle. Like, I love that I have so many stories with this, but I love that they don't make a big deal about it. Like, nobody would have known about my maternity pants if I didn't post on it, because the A's don't do it as a publicity stunt. They don't do it for the wrong reasons. They literally did it so that I would feel right, like I was in uniform and I was comfortable and like I was continue to do my job even though I was pregnant, right? And in a different capacity that I had been in before, right? I had never been pregnant before. So they're doing it for the right reasons, but like there's so much what like value in that, right? Like holy, like that says so much about an organization and the people I'm working with. Right. And so it had to be known that little girl, like that little girl's answer, you didn't read her answer.
I know.
Her answer, like I couldn't have scripted it any better.
Yeah. Like, she said, it makes me know that I belong.
Yeah. It would make me feel like I belonged.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Like I could, like when she said it, I was like,
what if it's your 13-year-old? You're like,
oh, I told you to say that. Like, but like that's the power of that. And I'm able to see it because I deal with these young girls all the time. And so I'm able to see like their struggle being a girl on a baseball field with other boys and like fighting to play the game and all these things. I get to see it and I get to be an example to them and hear these conversations and things. But like not a lot of people understand that power, right, that it has. And so, I mean, there's so much that the A's have done to make me feel welcome and to make me feel seen that nobody will ever know, right? And it's always a struggle of like, I want to just be in this space. I want to coach baseball. I don't want it to be a big deal. But then it is a big deal and it needs to be seen. It needs to be understood because there is value to us, not only for the little girl to see it, but for the other men and the other organizations and the other people to see that like my boss, wants me around and wants to hear my opinions and that my opinions matter. That's important for other organizations to hear because we do bring something different, right? Me in my role, I'm the only woman in charge of, the Latin program. I'm the only woman in a lot of these roles. From the surface level, you might think it's a mistake, right? To put a woman in this role. But my qualities as a female, my qualities as a Hispanic female actually are really beneficial in my role to these young boys and these young men. So, so it's, I think, important not just for the young girls, but for everyone to see it. And so, it's a constant struggle. I mean, I have one story to go with it and I'll try to make it quick. So I've always felt welcomed in this environment. And before my current farm director, Sprague, it was Keith Littman, and he was, wonderful as well at creating culture and creating this wonderful environment that I got to work in. And he was around as a special assistant once he stepped down from being the farm director. And we happened to have another female on staff for one of these instructs. It was like, I want to say like 2022 or something like that. And I was coaching third. I was managing the team during instructs, and she was my first base coach. And so I was like, oh my God, we got to take a picture. Right. And so I tell Keith and I say, hey, I'm looking up at him because he's super, I'm like, hey, can you take a picture from the tower of the field so that you capture me coaching third and Lisa coaching first? I said, I know you guys don't think it's a big deal, but I would like to record it as a big deal. And he's like, whoa. We think it's a big deal. And I was like, no. I didn't mean to be like offensive in this moment. Like, I know that that I'm not saying you don't think it's a big deal and that you should. I'm saying that like, I know you guys don't make a big deal out of it, but would you be, no, it's a big deal. Right. And so I'm like, this is not the conversation I was trying to have. I was like, can you please just take the picture from the tower? Right. So he's like, no, we think it's a big deal that you guys are out here. And I was like,
no, I get that you get that, but like, I'm just saying the picture part of it, like, we're in the middle of
I'm like, no, but I like that you guys don't make it a big deal. I'm just, whatever. So I'm like, you know what? Just take the picture. So in like the fifth inning, I hear, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And so I look up and they have called the drone out to the field to take a picture. And they're like, we think it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
I'm like, So it was the battle of those two ideals, right? It's like, I'm glad you guys don't make it a big deal on a daily basis, right? But let's acknowledge that it is also like something different and should be made a big deal.
Something picture worthy, yes. In an interview you did with MLB Network, another one, you talked about your grandparents having met on a field, a baseball field back in Cuba. And you said that your grandfather always said, if you cut him, little baseballs would fall out because baseball is in his blood. It's clearly in your blood as well. I wonder, because you also mentioned that it's not traditional that Cubans or Latin Americans would let girls, daughters, play with the boys. I wonder how convincing you had to be. Or maybe you didn't have to be. They're like, get out there, Veronica. We love it for you.
I have parents ahead of their times when it comes to that. And I was very fortunate that they let me play baseball. My grandfather, Mr. Baseball Blood, he didn't understand me playing baseball. He told my mom, why are you letting her do that? And things like that. So, I mean, one generation off, and my parents were there in, full support of me, and they continue to be. They pretty much go anywhere I go if I, open the invitation or anything like that, or they're always suggesting it. So my biggest supporters when it comes to that, as far as lifelong supporters. And I always say that I was very fortunate to have them. If not, I would not have been able to get here, because I would have just not been allowed to be part of the sport from such a young age. And that would have been such a shame. Right. And so when I think about that, to, be an advocate for young girls and even the Latin community, it's like, if I feel like I'm living my truth right in these positions, in my roles, and as an advocate of the boys on the men's side, and as the young girls on the women's side and the women's national team, I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But again, if you would not have allowed me to play sport, or my parents would not have allowed me to play baseball, I wouldn't have got into this spot, right? At least not as experienced or not as confident of, my ability to do this position. And so it's the importance of like supporting your kids in it, even if it doesn't fall in line with cultural norms, gender norms, and things like that, is just kind of support your kids and what they're interested in. And the sky's the limit at that point.
Yeah. And if you see the talent and the dedication, I mean, you talk about this in a number of interviews, like you just loved being out there and getting coached up. And that's another quality I imagine that you are looking at for players. Do they have that fierce, get after it mentality, that dog mentality? And are they coachable? And you had that passion for the game. It's in your blood, just like your grandfather's blood. Little baseballs falling out. And because of that, it allowed you to grow in the game. You were a 5-time member of USA Baseball's national team. You played softball at Villanova all 4 years. And you know what's so funny about this to me? It's like, I don't know of any other sport. You correct me if one's come to your mind before, where you have to go back and forth, baseball, softball. Now they're close, obviously, in terms of, 3 outs, 3 strikes, all of that. But that ball is bigger. It's coming at you faster, closer. And I don't know any other sport where somebody's going back and forth so interchangeably. And that's why it has to be in your blood. Softball and baseballs are falling out.
Yeah.
Cut. But do you know of any other examples?
No, we always use that in our battle, right? Our battle on the women's baseball side is like creating this difference in people's minds, right? And especially stateside, people are brainwashed, I say, to think that girls play softball and boys play baseball.
Yeah.
Right? They see baseball as a boys sport, when it's 2 different sports, right? It's like there's no other sport that the female version is completely different. Right? I mean, basketball, maybe the 3-point line is different and the ball might be a little bit different. Like,
but they're a different size. Like, yeah, that doesn't come into account for softball.
Right. Like in soccer, it's like no difference, right? In hockey, maybe some of the aggressive rules, I don't know, maybe some of those rules are different, but the everything else is the same. It's the same sport. This is the only sport where it's like a completely different field, completely different ball. Pitchers are doing a completely different thing. I mean, like your gears, I mean, the rules are different. You can't take a lead. You can't, so it's really the only one. And so we are working against that as a women's baseball, is creating that separation in people's minds, right? Everyone's initial response is, why don't you go play softball? Right. Or I mean, people correct us, correct me, correct these young girls, correct everyone that has ever played baseball. And they say, oh, you mean softball. It's like, no, I know what I do, right? And there's a difference. And so I have a story on that too. I have many stories on that on the professional side. But yeah, it's like there's no other sport. One of my former teammates and friend, she says, you wouldn't tell Serena Williams to go play ping pong, right? It's like, it's
Totally different.
different, right? And it's yeah. So I think once people start to realize those differences, which I think is like the only reason I like to post to social media is to kind of like create those differences, create the awareness and things like that of like, there are these group of women that play baseball. There are these young girls that want to play baseball. They don't want to play softball. And just like kind of supporting them in that and creating a space for them to be able to do that is really important. But yeah, my story on the big league side is that I was coaching third base at AAA during spring training, and the coach from the opposing team called me over and asked me where I coach softball.
Oh.
And that was a back and forth for about 3 times. And I thought someone was playing a joke on me, and then I walked away. Oh. I just don't understand it. I was in full baseball uniform coaching AAA level, and someone even in that moment, asked it. I was coaching USA Baseball boys, and the umpire asked me, if I knew Jenny Finch. And the hard part was I do know Jenny Finch.
I was going to say you probably do know
that.
So, like, I do, but not in the way that you think.
Exactly, right? So, but anyway, it's a constant battle of separating the two sports. And I think that'll be the struggle for women's baseball growing stateside. But internationally, there's, a ton of countries that play competitively, and we compete on the USA side in the World Cup setting, and we continue to fall to Japan. Sensitive topic from last 2 years ago, but we're getting up there and close to defeating them. But a lot of countries compete at a really high level now on the baseball field.
Well, I think you're right. Not that you would be wrong. You're in the game, but the Women's Professional Baseball League just was established, and they're kicking off the season, debuting the season on my birthday on August 1st. Ooh. They've got 4 teams: New York, Boston, LA, and San Francisco. They're all going to be playing in Illinois. I'll give some details about it. It's 4 weeks, 30 games. It's 600 players tried out for this league from 10 different countries. And as you said, like, there's the softball track, there's the baseball track, and there are people playing baseball all over the world. But I wonder, your history in the game, Veronica, you have to feel like this is kind of amazing that this is happening, number one. And number two, you have played such an important role being who you are, showing up the way that you have, coaching young players, having an incredible history yourself as a professional baseball player, but then also investing in the future. And now we're at this point. Does it feel kind of inspiring, encouraging? Like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening for you?
It's crazy, right? And I'm so excited for the young women and the women that get to play the sport at a professional level, right? That's been the goal for them. And it's the big picture goal. I'm very hopeful that it, is successful for them. And I really want it to be, because I want them to have that dream and live the dream that we all wish we had, right? Yeah. And I think the women's baseball community is a really special one. I'm sure they all are, right? But since I'm deep in the women's baseball one, I'm going to speak to it. But all the women that play it understand that they're building something for the future, right? And so though they're really focused on themselves, and though they want these goals for themselves and the success and all of these things, they're still so good at understanding, like, I'm going to pay it back to the next generation. And so, so we want this to become something great where it's, I have no official involvement with the WPBL, but I want them to be so successful so that these young girls coming up in the future have something to really look forward to, just like the hockey players and the basketball players and the soccer players. They all have this professional league in their sights and things like that. And it's fun to think about. And it's added a new dimension to coaching the girls, because I know now they have new goals.
They're able to play beyond the World Cup or the Olympics. I think that's the thing that a lot of women's sports have struggled with prior to this big change, this turning of the page, this new generation of athletes is like, women's sports in the Olympics, soccer, basketball, volleyball, baseball, like we get excited about it, and then it goes quiet for 4 years or for 2 years. But now it's like they have a chance to play in between. Obviously they're playing because they're professionals in between, but we get to see them beyond those big international events?
Yeah, when I was now I have a daughter, so now it's even another, whole other meaning to it. And she genetically should be an exceptional athlete, no question. But but she, I think about like, oh my God, if she plays basketball, there's a if she plays hockey, because we live in Denver, like it's so exciting to think that there is something there for her to look for, to work for,
Yeah.
and to hopefully attain, right? And though I know it will be a hard process, it's there. And so when I was a player on the national team, I realized it was really shocking to me that young girls that played baseball would see us by chance, and like it would be like mind blowing, like they didn't know we existed. Right.
Mm.
And so I was like, my God, like, how do these young girls that are like baseball players not know that there's a women's national team? Like, what a miss. Like, they don't know that there's something to work for. So I kind of put in my mind that I was like my goal when I became my goal was to become a manager once I stopped playing, and like grow the game and things like that. Was one of those things, was like my hope and my goal was that these young girls that played baseball knew that we existed.
Yeah.
There's something to work for. And so we have now come to the point that they know the women's national team exists, and they know the players' names, and they know things right about them. But now the added measure is that now we're beyond that. So it's kind of like what you said to start this question was like, yeah, like we've come so far that we not only have a space where the young girls know the women's national team players, now they have this league that they could potentially look forward to playing in and work for.
You dropped it in there a couple of times, very subtly, the fact that you are the manager of USA Baseball's women's national team. After having an incredible career, you won a gold medal, the Pan American Games back in 2015. I'm going to read a quote to you about what you said about transitioning after retirement. Making that decision to retire was heartbreaking and really hard for me. A lifetime of playing, a lifetime of doing something I love had to come to an end. I've talked to a number of professional athletes who go through that same struggle. Just like you hit a wall, maybe it's injury, maybe it's just time, you're not running as fast, you're not, whatever the reality is. Now I'm knowing that has come to an end. It felt heavy. Your quote feels heavy. How long did it take? What was that period of, I've made this decision and now I'm going to step into this role of shaping the next generation, pouring the knowledge and experience that I have gained in all these years of playing, turn that into opportunities for them. What was that grieving period? How long was that? And then, hey, I'm now a manager. I'm Coach V. What's going on?
Well, it was injury that it caused me to retire, I guess. And so, because as a women's national team player, if you've still got it, you can play a good amount of time, as long as you're, better than the younger ones. But injury kind of forced my hand on that. And it was a heartbreak. I remember crying about it in the back of the fire truck. I was a firefighter at the time. And, to make that, have that realization that part of your life was over. But I always knew as a player that I wanted to become a coach, especially of the women's national team. I wanted to be able to provide the women the attention and the knowledge they deserve. So anyway, I talk about it as like changing a page. Like I changed a page and now I'm a coach and now I'm only coaching. Like, don't ask me to play. Now definitely don't ask me to play. But, and then my focus became that. And I've always been like the cheerleader on the bet. Like I've always been like the teammate, right? That wanted the best for her team mates. And so I felt like it was pretty natural of a transition for me to go into this like now role of like becoming my best so that I can help you be your best.
Well, I mentioned this to you when I reached out to you. In 2024, you were named one of the movers and shakers from Latinos in sports. And I have to imagine, again, being a proud first generation Cuban American, it feels like something to be recognized from your community as someone that's moving and shaking, creating opportunities, breaking barriers. Tell me what it was like hearing that you were being recognized in that way, what it felt like for you.
Again, I mean, so much power, right? And like my grandparents left a Cuba that was falling apart and politically, and they kind of gave up everything to start it from scratch again in the States. And, they had things going for them in the US. It's hard to think about. They were pretty much probably my age with children, and
Hmm.
I'm good, I'm comfortable, and to just drop it all and like start from scratch somewhere that you're unfamiliar with is a lot, right? And so there's so much uh power from that experience that I've like grown up with, of understanding that struggle that they rebuilt in a country that they didn't understand or speak the language, right? Their education wasn't valued in the States and stuff like that. And so um to have come from that storyline, I guess, and to watch my parents rebuild as well, and then them support me in this like not normal role or desire.
Traditional role for women. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so to have had that experience growing up, and then to then be recognized in my role as a Latina, I think there's so much power to that. So it was an honor to have my Latin heritage be recognized for that.
Well, you're just, in 2 generations,
Yes,
how things can change. Here's a
so
quote from
much.
that article that celebrated your accomplishments. Being Cuban American, it is a role that I do not take lightly. I see myself as an advocate to these young players in the same way and with the same intention as with the women on the national team. My job is to create an environment where they can thrive, and I will fight to do so because of my cultural connection to them and my want for them to be successful. I feel like this is to be the profile. The quote should go on every profile page on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on athletics.com, MLB.com. Veronica, your career has been, again, from the podcast, the interviews, hearing you speak so passionately about the game and the ways in which you want to contribute to the success of others. I think it's incredible. And I'm so grateful that you have shared details about your journey with me. And thank you again for watching this on YouTube, listening on Spotify, following along on Instagram and Blue Sky. Until next time.